The government boasted of the following: £2.7 billion for the vaccine deployment programme, £2.3 billion for the vaccine task force, but not a penny, apparently, for the thousands of people injured or killed by the vaccine, no matter what the coroner's certificate says. Have you noticed your health declining since receiving the COVID-19 injection? If you weren't made fully aware of the health risks from the COVID-19 vaccines, you are entitled to compensation of £120,000. It can take at least 6 months to process a vaccine damage payment claim. If you're making a claim about a COVID-19 vaccination, it will take longer. Well, it's government, so it can take a lot longer. Charlotte Wright, who was on this show last week, Charlotte's husband died from the vaccine last January, 32 years old. That's almost a year and a half ago now, and she hasn't received tuppence three farthing from this programme. As I said yesterday, more than one thing can be true. On the one hand, Chairman Xi's Wu flu can kill people, and on the other hand, the vaccine can kill people. You can believe both things to be true. It's not either or. According to the yellow cards, over 2,000 people are dead. According to the government's website, quote, it is estimated that only 10% of serious reactions and between 2 and 4% of non-serious reactions are reported. So that would make over 20,000 deaths from the vaccine. Why aren't we talking about this? And by the way, is it really gaslighting? Are you saying these wives aren't really widowed? These children aren't really orphaned? I've just as I went on air, I saw this from the Manchester Evening News. Tragedy as girl 18 dies of blood clot 2 weeks after COVID vaccine. This is Casey Turner here. 18-year-old Casey Turner. She had the vaccine because she was part of a Yorkshire Health Service team, so she wanted to have it so she didn't infect other people or cause any trouble to other people. She had no reason to have that vaccine. 18 years old. Casey Turner. Poor girl's dead now. Manchester Evening News, just before I came on air. I repeat what I said yesterday. We have asked AstraZeneca for a response. Every time we get one of these coroner's certificates from one of our guests, we forward it to AstraZeneca and ask them to comment on it. We have not heard back from them now, not for any of these people. As we heard yesterday from Kelly Hatfield talking about her poor father, AstraZeneca sent legal teams to sit in on coroner's inquests up and down the land, so they're not short of manpower. We would be happy to have a spokesman for AstraZeneca tonight, tomorrow, any day of the week, but we haven't heard a peep from them. I mentioned last week the BBC presenter Lisa Shaw, who died from the COVID vaccine last year at the age of just 44 and has in death been pretty much memory holed by her BBC colleagues. She's not the only BBC presenter to be clobbered by the vaccine. Fortunately, Jules Sirkin is still with us, although in great pain. Jules Sirkin joins me now. Before anything else, Jules, how are you actually feeling? Because I think you had plans to go away for the weekend and you basically had to cancel them because you just weren't strong enough to go away.
That's right, Mark. Hello. These vax attacks just come and there's no warning. I'm beginning to realise that, I've set up a small support group of vax damaged people, and we're beginning to see a pattern now where these vax attacks, you get a day of fatigue, which you might not notice, and you carry on. And then in my case, the pains start jabbing in the left eye. As you know, I've been having lots of eye problems, eye droop, facial numbness. My GP filled in a form to AstraZeneca stating the long list of symptoms, the nerve damage and all the awful symptoms that I've had, life-changing. And she sent it last September the 21st, and she's only had an auto reply. She's never had a response. I've also phoned AstraZeneca twice, Mark, and each phone call was frustrating, and they said different things that weren't what they'd said in the first phone call. And on the second phone call, I just put down the phone in tears because it was just so frustrating. They don't care.
So your life has... No, I don't think there's any doubt. As I said, we've been trying to get AstraZeneca a reaction from them to the cases we've been talking about now since last Thursday. They haven't replied. They don't want to put anybody on the show. Are you a bit disturbed by the media coverage? I mean, I don't wish to knock your employer, but I was listening to the BBC earlier today, and in fact, if you listen to the BBC, it's basically like it's still March 2020. The story hasn't moved on. There's no idea that, it isn't, the story is the COVID's a threat and the vaccines should be for everyone, including this 18-year-old girl who just died in Manchester. So are you slightly disappointed at the media's one-sided coverage of this?
I am, and I sometimes scream at Jeremy Vine on his BBC show when I'm driving, the radio show, not the TV one, because he's just so pro-vax, and I've certainly heard presenters shutting up people that are on the show when they're just giving another side, our side basically. And my local paper did a story. I used to write a business column for them, so the Whitstable Times, they wrote a story from my tweets. And the young journalist, that was last May 21, the young journalist said, keep us informed, and they've never written anything else. So I think there's been, I think that the media have been told to be quiet. I think it must be that. They don't want to hear another side. People are dropping like flies. I've got groups of people. I get messages most days, DMs, and all of our symptoms are so similar. It's like a nerve damage. As you know, we've got people bedridden 5-6 months. As you know, Alex Mitchell, who you're interviewing later with Dan Wootton, he's had his leg amputated. It's an endless list. And even in my everyday life, if I'm having my nails done or something, the young girl there had Pfizer, and she hasn't had her period since last summer. She gets migraines, which she never had, and she's ill. I've seen her just go downhill from these 2 Pfizers. And I'm frustrated. I really am frustrated.
Well, that's very interesting to me, because the pushback from the groupthink media is always, well, these are all anecdotes. I would love to see the numbers, but in fact, for what seem to be political reasons, the Office for National Statistics and other people don't actually seem interested in finding out the numbers. So you just pick it up bit by bit when you're with your hairdresser or whatever.
Yeah, word of mouth. I have a colleague who went completely deaf after the second AstraZeneca. I sent him the yellow card link, and I texted him later, did you do it? No, it was nerve damage to the brain. That's what his doctors told him. He now has a hearing aid, but he never reported it. So many people don't report it, or don't know how to even. If you think back to last year, we weren't given, on the back of that little scruffy card that I still carry around, there's nothing on there about reporting. I do believe now they've added the yellow card link, but many people don't report.
You had no need to take this vaccine in the first place. Do you feel bitter about the government essentially ballyhooing this thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment for everybody on the planet?
I was just saying to the cab driver on my way in that the bombardment we had right back, if you go back to last year, the constant news media, which we don't get now, don't hug your gran, don't touch this, don't touch that, don't sit on a bench, don't have a coffee with a friend. It was relentless every day, and we were all terrified. Certainly I thought I was going to end up on a ventilator, face down, dying in some hospital. So that was the propaganda. I feel I was coerced. I've had COVID just a few weeks back, and my husband, who's double jabbed, had his AstraZeneca the next day. We got it on exactly the same day. We had more or less the same symptoms. I would say I probably had a bit more energy than he did. And he's double jabbed, I'm one jab. There was no difference really in our symptoms. So I don't think I don't call it a vaccine. I can't call it a vaccine.
That's completely correct. We're just a few weeks away from, the government of Austria, for example, saying that if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to be fined. If you don't pay the fine, you're going to go to prison. A lot of countries, the government of Canada is still saying you can't get on an internal train or an internal flight if you don't have this vaccine. So we have a situation that I don't think has ever existed in history before, where governments are making free peoples get vaccinated for entirely non-medical reasons.
Yep. Dr. Anthony Hinton, who I follow on Twitter, he put that BBC story out and Twitter censored him. And that's what I'm seeing all the time, a lot of censorship. And same on Facebook. If I put a true story on Facebook, I get that header and footer, find out about the vaccines. And there is definitely censorship going on.